Okay guys, today we're doing lesson 2-7, page 50 and 51. Now there's a little rhyme that I want you to remember with rounding. We've been working with rounding for addition. I want you to remember if it's 5 or more, let it soar. 4 or less, let it rest. Okay, so this little rhyme that I want you to put in your notebook, this will help you know what to do with that number to the right. Okay, now today we're going to work with rounding and using difference. Remember, difference is the answer you get when you subtract. Now, let's look at number 1 on page 51. The direction said round to the nearest hundred to estimate each difference. Notice that I've circled my key words: round, nearest hundred, estimate, and difference. Even in your directions, when you see key words, I want you guys to circle them. So let's look at number 1. 321 minus 112, and my direction said round to the nearest hundred. So remember, I'm going to circle the place I'm rounding. We're rounding to the nearest hundred, so I'm going to circle the hundreds place, which is a 3. And the 2, let's fix this. The 2 is going to tell the 3 what to do. 2 is less than 5, so I'm going to let it rest. Remember, 4 or less, let it rest. 2 is less than 5. So that 3 is going to stay a 3. Now everything else is going to become a 0. I've got 2 numbers behind the place I'm rounding, so I need 2 zeros. So now I've got 300 minus a number. Okay, the 1 is in the hundreds place. This 1 is going to tell that 1 what to do. 1 is less than 5, so this 1 is going to stay a 1. And now everything else becomes zeros. So now I can solve my problem. 300 minus 100 equals 200. So 321 minus 112 is about 200. Remember, when you round, you don't give an exact answer. If we want an exact answer, we would do our regular subtraction, but remember, we're estimating. All right, 255 minus 189. Remember, we're rounding to the nearest hundred, so I'm going to circle my hundreds place. And my number to the right is going to tell me what to do. Okay? 5 or more, let it soar. So I have a 5 here. So that means this 3 is going to soar, this 2 is going to soar up to a 3. Now I've got 2 numbers behind the place I'm rounding. So I need 2 zeros. I'm going to keep my math operation. We're subtracting. This 8, I drew the wrong one. This 8 is telling this 1 to soar. So it's going to become a 2. And I've got 2 places. I need 2 zeros. So 300 minus 200 equals 100. So 255 minus 189 is about 100. Now, so far we've worked with examples where they told us exactly where to round. Sometimes they wanted us to round to the nearest 10, sometimes the nearest 100. Now, what happens when the directions don't tell you the place to round? If the directions don't tell you what place to round, always use the highest place value. So for instance, look at this example. My directions just say estimate each difference. Notice that I circled my keywords. They want me to estimate, so I know I'm rounding. And they wanted me to use difference, so I know I'm subtracting. Okay? They didn't tell me to round to the nearest 10 or round to the nearest 100. So I'm going to round to the highest place. In these 2 numbers, I've got 1s, 10s, 100s. The highest place is 100. 1s, 10s, 100. So that means I'm going to round to the nearest 100. This 8 is telling this 2 to go up to a 3. And now everything else is going to become zeros. I'm going to keep my same math operation. This 3 is telling that 1 to rest. So it's going to stay a 1. And I'm going to add 2 zeros. So 300 minus 100 equals 200. So 287 minus 134 is about 200. Okay, again, my highest place on B is my hundreds place. The 5 is going to tell the 3 to go up or soar up to a 4. And I'm going to add 2 zeros. Keep my same math operation. This 5 is telling that 1 to soar up to a 2. And I've got 2 zeros. And now I can subtract. 400 minus 200 equals 200. So 358 minus 159 is about 200. Now let's look at estimating in a word problem. Let's look at our example. It says, on Tuesday, 387 people attended the state fair. On Wednesday, 183 people went to the fair. About how many more people went to the fair on Tuesday than on Wednesday? Now, remember, in problem solving, we always use our strategies, and the first thing we do is circle keywords. Remember, numbers are always keywords. So I'm going to circle 387, 183. Now, what other keywords have we learned about? Okay, I'm going to read it again. On Tuesday, 387 people attended the state fair. On Wednesday, 183 people went to the fair. About, we know about is associated with our rounding. How many more? How many more we know is associated with subtraction? How many more people went to the fair on Tuesday than on Wednesday? And we learned that the word than is associated with subtraction because when you see the word than, that means you're comparing two things. We're comparing the people on Tuesday with the people on Wednesday. When you compare, you subtract. Okay? So, but they said the word about. That means they don't want to know the exact number. They want an estimate. Okay? Now notice, they didn't tell us to round to the nearest 100 or to round to the nearest 10. So we're going to use the highest place. Let's look at 387 and 183. Okay, we've got ones, tens, hundreds, ones, tens, hundred. So 387 minus 183. Okay, and we're going to round to the nearest hundreds place because that's the highest place we have in these numbers, and they didn't give us a specific one, so we know to use the highest place value. Okay, the 8 is telling this 3 to soar up to a 4. And now, everything else behind the place where rounding becomes a zeros. So the 8 and 7 is going to become zeros. 400, we're going to keep the same operation. We're subtracting. This 8 is going to tell that 1 to soar up to a 2. The 8 and 3 is going to become zeros. So now we've got 400 minus 200 equals 200. So when it says about how many more people went to the fair on Tuesday than on Wednesday, your answer should be 200. About 200 people. Okay? Now, I want you to take a minute and copy down this problem. Okay, I want you to do A and B. Remember to use your rounding strategies. And if you have any questions, I want you to write them down at the bottom of your notebook. And we'll answer them first thing tomorrow. We'll see you guys tomorrow.